I assess learners' progress in a variety of ways. Part of what I do is establish learning teams so that the students have to complete a task and then contribute to a discussion board with their learning team. And then those learning teams will contribute to other discussion boards. And it's through that that I can determine what their understanding is. Part of what I do is when I evaluate their discussion board contributions is to use a rubric that's 50% reflecting their understanding and 50% based on their performance. The performance really comes in when we do performance tasks. And every module that I have includes a performance task, which includes videotaping so that I can actually watch them. And then they also do peer and self-assessment using a rubric that I created for peer and self-assessment.
We develop our objectives, figure out the best and most appropriate assessment for those objectives, and following that, we figure out the instructional strategies that will help us get students towards those outcomes that we're desiring. Some of the strategies that I like to use or that I teach my students to use are rubrics, because it helps us be less subjective about our assessment and more intentional about what we're looking for. It helps the learner know what the expectations are up front. Typically, best practices, we would post those for our students in advance and they would know what those expectations are. Some of the other things that I feel about assessment is they should be rigorous. So I'm a believer that our assessments should differentiate between students who have learned the material and students who perhaps just went through the motions. And so rigorous assessments will help us know who really has learned the content or the process that we're teaching. The other thing that I think is really important with assessment, especially from somebody who trains teachers, is it needs to be authentic. So it needs to be something that students will learn in the real setting of that work. So it's a practice opportunity to do whatever is being taught in that classroom, and those assessments would then help us be able to make better judgment if students are truly prepared to go and do what we've taught them to do.
I create these learning outcomes right in the beginning of my course, share with them, clearly set expectations, and also many times I use the previous semester's example or templates with them. So this is what we did in that semester, this is what some of the students did, assignments and project, you will be doing the similar things. So we are all on the same page. And those learning outcomes, which I have stated them well in advance, they also know they are going to be assessed based on those learning outcomes. So that's how there is some kind of a synchronization. I hate to give them a lot of learning outcomes saying you understand, you will able to do it, but a lot of those are theoretical and there is no way to measure them. I always put certain things which are measurable so that at the end of the class I can say you were able to design or you were not able to design, you were able to learn these tools or you were not able to learn these tools.
I also had them do a project where it was like they were in a recording studio. So they had an Audacity, they had to download Audacity, which is a music editing app. And they had to come up with some of their favorite songs. And in addition to stating why they like these favorite songs, they had to do a voiceover about what was special for them. So it really got them thinking out of the box in both of these projects, and I think it was very successful.
I teach from a constructivist perspective, and I have been using Wiggins and McTighe for years in terms of understanding by design. So my expected outcomes are where I begin, and those guide the instruction through every module. Like identify essential questions. Everything that I do cycles back to seeing to what extent they're understanding the answers to the essential questions, which are big questions.
As with a traditional face-to-face course, identifying multiple ways of assessment in the online environment is equally important as well. Some students excel with a paper and pencil multiple choice type of assessment. Others will excel using a short essay type of assessment. And I like to give our students many ways of showing their competency. So finding ways to include as many varied methods of assessment is also important. Looking at how our students participating in our discussion board activities. That's another way of making assessments.
Learning outcomes are very important for us because in a way we feel that we're breaking new ground. There are not many design courses online because interaction is critical in those courses. So we are somehow opening that avenue, experimenting on a constant basis. So as we go through the assignments, we exercise a lot of introspection. We verbalize what are we learning, almost in real time. And that feeds into our ability to adapt a course. My course has 3 assignments. In each one of them, we address a different project. The first project is to redesign a supermarket. And by that, we don't only mean the infrastructure, but probably the business model. We can design anything. The second one is international education. How do we redesign international education? Now, the third one is the really important one in terms of feedback on learning outcomes, because it is to redesign the course itself. So the students are confronted with the need of being truly introspective and find out what were the pieces of the course that worked for them as learners, take full awareness of their learning, and in some cases produce new ideas that will increase the effectiveness of the course.